Okay, I'll call the meeting to order, 6:30. Additions, changes to the agenda. I will add, we're gonna have signing of liquor license, approving of liquor licenses for Parker Pie. Annika should be here soon. We also have another item that wasn't listed, was the town selling town property. Dave's going to give us an update on that. Any other changes or additions to the agenda? Dan?
The town website.
Town website.
And we just lost the.
No, she's still there. So, okay. First thing we need to do is approve minutes from
April 14th.
April 14th.
I move we approve the minutes of April 14th as presented.
I second. Leanne, are you here?
Yes, sorry, I second that. Or I mean, I vote yes for that.
All right, all those in favor of approving the minutes, signify by saying aye. Aye. Minutes are approved. Okay, I'll put that there. And we had the energy committee update, but there's been no contract for the energy committee, so we will pass on that. Dave, do you want to talk about town selling property?
Yeah, we can, do you have that? Is that it?
Oh,
In the orange folder. I think. I didn't.
I just
I
took,
went through the VLCTs link, to you, and also contacted, there's a lot involved in doing this. I talked to Sarah Davies.
yeah.
Okay.
And unless somebody really is interested in spending some money, I think it's kind of crazy. You've got to go through, you're going to go through the check season, we need to subdivide it because it's through Act 250 on this certain parcel. If you're going to get a petition done by, you have to warn it for a month. You have to get a petition. If anybody wants against it, they get a petition. If 5% of voters say no, then it has to go to a special meeting. You're going to do title searches. It's sometimes in a situation where, I mean, I don't think this piece comes into play, but if somebody gets the town land and the town will sell it, you're going to do a search on that because sometimes it goes back to the family of who gifted the land. It's in this situation with the Neils, he wasn't looking to spend a whole lot of money, and I think to do it correctly, the finances are going to be quite a lot of money.
So how would the board like to proceed on this decision?
I would be happy to go. I would be willing to go talk to him and explain to him what it's going to incur, if that would be good. And
But there's no real barriers that towns or hoops that the town would have to go through beyond what we just talked about.
no.
So you want to talk to him and explain that this is going to be a complicated process and see what he says.
I think that's it. I think before we spend a lot of time on it, I think that's the easiest way to do it. Sarah says it can be done, but there's definitely some things we got to do and make sure it's done.
So do we still want to proceed with this? Leanne, what do you think?
I think that's fine. I don't really have a really strong opinion about it. I think that we should definitely think about the assessment of it. Ted said between 1,500 and 2,000. 2,500. I gave you those numbers last week.
Yeah. But also he wasn't really interested in when we mentioned legal fees, he kind of turned a little on that, and there's no way of avoiding these legal fees. You know, you've got title searches, you've got lawyers' fees, you've got, you know, there's a lot to do it, and you can't just say, hey, you know, we're gonna.
So do we agree that the town does not want to incur legal fees for this
No,
sale?
I don't think we should.
Another thing that was in that email was that we needed to ask, or we should ask the neighbors that if we're selling it, we should advertise that it's available to the neighbors as well.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, so that might be step two.
And probably the best way to do it is to warn it, say, you know, we're gonna do this, and warn it in the paper, and give it 30 days, and see if we have anybody that is against it, doesn't want it. But I think let me go talk to him and just see, hey, how much money are you willing to spend for this quarter of an acre? You know? And then if he's willing to do so, then we'll dig into it and start the process.
But you're gonna, okay, so just not to overthink this, but I guess if he offers something that is higher than what we talked about last meeting, do we then negotiate whether we pay some of the legal fees? Do we want to get into that?
I don't think we should pay legal fees.
Okay.
We don't need to sell that little piece of land.
Right.
You know,
I'm this close to just say, let's just punt on it and say no.
Yeah,
But, you know, if we want to still pursue it,
I mean, I don't care if we pursue it either, but I think we ought to just give him the, you know, be respectful and say, you know, this is what's gonna do, how much money you want to spend, if it's gonna be a fair amount of money, and see where he goes from that, and then we can make a decision after that.
Okay.
Would be my suggestion.
All right, well, thanks for doing that. You want to,
Sure, I'll go talk to him this week sometime.
okay. All right, moving on. Hello, Ann.
Hello.
So we have your copies of the liquor license renewal application.
Yeah, I have the originals here.
Okay,
You can sign both of them.
all right, so liquor, renewing Parker Pie's liquor license. Do we have a motion?
I move we approve the application for the renewal of Parker Pie's liquor application for the year.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor of renewing, of approving the renewal of Parker Pie's liquor license, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Yeah, I'm gonna take these, there was, well, I explained this, but you know, people thought somebody else did it, that was done a couple months ago, gotta get done tomorrow, basically, so I'm gonna drive to Montpelier. And I did confirm with DLC that it was acceptable for me to drive from there with the checks. Jamie Green said yes. And then that'll be perfect, and we won't have to not
So
sell
there-
beer on Sunday,
Right.
right? Which wouldn't have been the end of the world, but
Brian,
Is there another
sign the originals as well.
Okay,
Because we don't have a copier, I can't make copies of
I see.
the originals. with all the
We need to sign here too, correct?
so you guys will keep that copy.
Right.
And you already had the town, I gave the town checks this morning. And I don't know, I know we need to list, I don't know if something just signed. before.
Well,
No,
technically, we have a quorum, so.
Okay.
there is a quorum with the two of them can sign. And you're leaving.
Okay.
You missed this one, bud.
Oh, okay.
And I
All
just
right.
have to sign the town. Yes.
That's why she's here the night before.
I did not intend to leave it till the last minute, but. Yeah, they review every year. Expired. And, you know, we used 2 months ago and I was like, oh, yeah.
And the next thing you
I
know.
think you have to sign
Wait,
one
you
more
guys
time.
didn't do that?
Oh, No. This is ours, that's
Yeah,
hers.
just ignore the DLC checks there, just put it all
Done.
together in the packet. and you guys come up with your-
Done.
There's
Uh-huh.
cost, outside consumption and tobacco.
There.
Okay. And I will sign and we'll be good to go.
Okay, all right. Service with a smile.
Thank you so much, I really appreciate it. I'm sorry about the short notice.
Anything to-
Imagine we'll be drinking free this next week.
Well, and Brian needs to get his cigars, his little cigars, so.
I was worried about that.
Right?
I was gonna buy a whole bunch before Saturday.
Does anybody have any questions or need anything from me otherwise while I'm here, or any concerns about the restaurant? I did not, sadly. We, all the ones we have right now are tapped because it's the slow time, so we don't have that many.
Thanks for getting back into the everybody eats.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's been great. And we're gonna keep doing that at least through July 1st, so feel free to spread the word. We're doing community meals that can be picked up every Tuesday. It's not as expensive as it was last year. I mean, last year we were doing like 150, 160 meals a week. Now it's
Okay, let's move on.
All right.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you guys so
I,
much.
So I did invite Noah Armstrong to come talk about the CUD, and he should be here, but we'll just move on. We have the Orleans County Sheriff's Report, which I want to remind people that there is the website if you want to really get details on this. Just looking at the paper version, seems to be an increase in traffic tickets, mostly warnings. There was one ticket out of 7 stops. And I certainly have seen more of a presence. There was 2 deputies out by the fire department this evening. So, any questions about the report?
Nope.
Dan, do you want to talk about the town website?
Yes. Who of the select board double checks the town website, make sure minutes are there, et cetera,
Do you have anyone special designated?
No, that would be probably what a town administrator would do, but we're in, yeah, but there is not, I mean, we there's no one designated.
Because April 14th minutes weren't there. And actually, the minutes for the town meeting.
So we typically would call either Cindy or Jessica is the web person, designated web person.
Right, but I'm just a peon, you are.
Yeah, we're,
Bored.
yeah, we have so much power.
You guys gotta check the website on occasion.
So have you not been able to read the minutes?
Oh, the April 14th minutes out.
Okay. Minutes are a problem because we do have to, we have, was it 7 days to get them posted?
No, it's 5 calendar days.
So can we agree that that has to be a problem to solve, Cindy?
Yes,
ARPA money?
however, I'm positive Jessica put them on the website. I can't prove it because I don't have anything in front of me,
Okay.
but she has been very diligent about putting those minutes on.
Open meeting law says 5 calendar days. So, I usually don't look until a week, that's true.
All right. So if we do have to, this has been an ongoing issue. We'll have to have a little powwow to see where is the,
First problem.
yeah.
We'll get on that then.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Vigilant. vigilante.
Oh, by the way, those months back when I showed you that the minutes didn't exist, they still don't exist.
Still up.
The old ones, the older ones.
Yeah, I know. I've talked to Jethro about those.
Okay, hello, Noah. Okay, we'll bump you up now.
Yeah, I walked all the way down to town hall or town clerk.
Oh, okay.
A little exercise.
Yeah, never heard anybody.
Yeah.
So I'm just, and I guess here to update you guys a little bit, and I guess I need to be either re-signed as your representative to the communication union district, or you need to pick someone else.
Well, why don't you tell us what's going on, and then we'll make that decision.
So, I can't disclose a lot of stuff, but, we have, funding's gone very well this year. I am allowed to say, Glover's not gonna be in our first round of build, though some of our backbone may pass through here. I think, couple years off still, but that being said, we just actually received $16 million from, it's the Northeast Broadband. Sorry, there's a lot of acronyms.
Yeah.
But out of our total bill, we are quite well funded, so I definitely expect to see quite a bit of build here this year. Kind of the problem we're running into is that stuff that we used to just be able to, you could order 2 days off Amazon, but you can't do that anymore. It's just not there. So stuff that used to be a week out is now 3 to 6 months out. So that's kind of what we're running into, is just supply shortages. That being said, we did drop our first fiber here in Concord at the end of last year. Connected a couple of homes. We're hoping that this latest batch of money we got will at least let us connect up to 1,500 homes.
So how is it decided? I mean, I know Concord, it's out in the middle of nowhere, and I'm not belittling the need they have, but we also have pockets in Glover that are the same in terms of.
Because it's really more because we did a project with the company, and they had a build going in there, so we built extensions on their build. So it just made sense for the limited funds we had. I think we only had something like $250,000 to build with. And we're talking, fiber costs $40,000 to $60,000 a mile to run it, right? Aerial, but so that's why we have a build plan. I can't really disclose the details of it due to non-disclosure, but we're building several redundant loops, and where they go is basically we're going to either piggyback off other people's fiber and lease ours back to them, etc., or we'll have to do some new build in some places.
Is there anything the town can do to improve our chances of getting something happening earlier? Or is it just?
I mean, it's really kind of we're not set in stone, but the main backbones are really not changeable. We have to get those in before we can start building extensions out to the Mud Island and West Glover. It's just
So I just got a pamphlet from this company that says 1 gig, $60 a month.
Mhm.
And I went to the map.
Yeah.
And it was all Barton Village.
Yeah. I know that we have someone coming through here. They're I wouldn't say competition, but they're definitely laying fiber here too. So definitely it's there's been quite a bit of money devoted to broadband here over the last 2 years.
So I had an occasion to cover a press conference Bernie Sanders had up at Newport a week and a half ago, and one of the side discussions was he asked the superintendent of North Country Schools how the broadband was around here. And superintendent said, well, it depends on where you are, but it's not good. We had a lot of students that just didn't have connectivity.
Yeah.
And he said, his comment was, well, you better get on the state because we have given a lot of money to Vermont to build this up. So what do you say to that?
I say that our project's very well funded here, but again, like I said, we've been in business not even 2 years quite yet. I think May will be 2 years. I mean, we're we're talking about a $300 million project here. It's not just gonna happen overnight. You know, it definitely is there. I've looked at the plan, I've looked at the map, like it's coming, it's gonna happen, but, you
Okay.
know, I think, yeah, there's definitely, and you know, of course, you know, Fairpoint, Comcast, and all the other larger players have always said to the state of Vermont is, oh yeah, you know, everyone, you know, the broadband's like covered it, but then of course, you know, you go to like up the street in Hardwick or up the street here on like Dexter Mountain or up
Right.
towards West Glover, and there's no broadband, you get like 3 maybe down, so, you know, I think it's a lot of gray area there.
Is there a schedule of potential build outs?
We're doing 5 rounds probably over the next between depending on funding and availability of materials, between, you know, 5 to 8 years, it sounds like, the complete build. That's more than 2,800 miles of fiber though, so it's like quite a big undertaking. But yes, the town of Glover is kind of right in the middle of that. I can't really tell you when we're gonna be here, but it's coming in the next couple of years, I would say. You know, that being said, there's definitely some alternatives here that have really become, if affordability is not like a super big deal, it's like Starlink's really come a long way here over the last couple of years. You know, they are a little bit expensive, and you know, of course, we get
Yeah.
snow here, you know, of course, when it's snowing really hard, it's probably not gonna work great, but they're definitely, I've definitely known a couple of people that have gotten that, they're really happy with it.
Okay.
So what you're saying is that you've got the money, but you just can't get the materials.
Well, you know, I mean, labor, materials, like all, you know, it just takes time. I mean, we're not gonna build 2,800 miles of fiber here tomorrow. It's gonna be a process and project, and
Out of curiosity, how many miles of fiber do you hope to do this summer?
this summer, I think they said somewhere between 250 to 500 miles, but I could not
Okay.
be correct on that. Again, they said if we were funded tomorrow, they said it'd probably be 5 to 6 years before we got everything. We're talking about building out Essex County as well, so, you know, there's a lot of runs to run there. And you know, again, it just takes time. I'm hoping that we'll be better here next year than we are this year, so.
How
So,
many major connection points we have in this entire thing, where you connected to someone else's line that carries a load?
I really couldn't tell you that right off the top of my head, but they definitely, I know you guys have been CC'd on an email there from the board about, you want to put a hub up in, an OLT hub and
right,
up at the ambulance.
yeah, I was gonna ask about that. What is the status of that?
I don't know, I know I had seen, basically someone had asked and they said, well, the next thing to do would like have a site visit. And I don't know if I was just not CC'd on the response to that, or if there was no response to that. or-
So that's a good question. So is that something that the CUD would kind of coordinate and then talk to us, or do we?
I can check in on that if you'd like.
That'd be great.
I just wasn't sure if there was other chatter going on that I didn't get to see, so. Is
No, there was I forgot the woman's name, but she seemed,
that Krista?
yeah, I think so. She had talked to Adam,
Okay,
and then Adam talked to me, and I emailed and said, we're very interested, and then that was the last I had heard.
So the great part about that is, you know, basically, you know, when Fairpoint, it puts in a hub, right? They really serve maybe 2.5 to 4.5 miles from that hub. That's like what they can serve, and they have a limited number of people they can serve off of that. When we put in like an
About
LP
a
hub,
half mile from their hub in, what, like Merle's,
yeah,
New York.
yeah. You live there, or is that what you said?
No, I live on top of Greenville.
Oh, okay. But
I
yes.
live there when you're.
Basically, so if we install an OLT fiber hub there, we can serve up to 20 miles. So it's quite, we get quite a bit of reach off of that. So I definitely recommend if we can get it in there, that would definitely kind of help the build out in this area. When that goes in, again, is on, you know, guys, having a Ray there who's on the executive board. He's also on the tech committee. Got a lot of experience with kind of enterprise broadband. And he said, those OLT cabinets, we used to just be able to order them, they'd be here in a week, and now we're, 3 to 6 months out here on, so it really is just, when we get it, we can build it, so.
Okay,
That being said, there's also the, Sean Campbell was my alternate, and he said that he has since moved out of the town of Glover, so he asked if we try to
Okay.
find another alternate member.
anyone have any ideas for an alternate to serve?
I thought that might be something you would need. Have you considered asking Matt Eldridge?
Is he still living in the town of Glover, or?
I think he is living on
I haven't
Shadow
seen him in a minute, but, I
Lake.
knew that he was living down in Stove sometime, so I'm not 100% sure where he's at.
He was on Shadow Lake.
Yeah.
I believe he's living on Shadow Lake, and it may be in his area of interest.
Yeah, I mean, we could definitely ask him.
Could you? Yeah.
I don't know that I know he's usually pretty busy in the tech world, so I don't know if he's got the bandwidth for it or not, but I can ask him.
Okay, that'd be good. So, anything else you want to share before I know we have to reappoint you apparently.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys have any questions that you'd like answered from maybe like Chris to shoot or something like that, I can't promise that she will give you answers because some of it is under non-disclosure just based on competition with other big players in this industry, but she'd definitely be the person that would know.
You already appointed him
What?
in March when you were doing the reorganization. You've already
Oh,
appointed.
Okay.
I was wondering about that.
And
So we
Sean.
need, yeah, but Sean, so we need to find somebody to.
Yeah.
So
We
maybe,
need the alternate.
And
So,
that's not as burning of a thing that we need, it's really more is that if I say, hey, I've got another thing that I have to do, can you sit in? And most of the time, these, since I actually retired from the executive committee here last year, and didn't have the bandwidth for it. Those guys really put in the time. We're a totally volunteer board, so, yeah, so that's really just more what it is that, they get to hear and they get to comment or vote on, whatever's put forward there.
okay. So if you wouldn't mind following up with Matt Eldridge,
Yeah, I
that'd be
can
great.
send it.
Anyone else? I mean, feel free to. Yeah, it's sort of like a substitute to you when you can't make it. Is
Oh,
basically.
any teenager would work.
Yeah. but-
Dan's available.
It's true.
Well, I've been in IT.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna
You want to do that? You
Not
could,
really.
you could come here and update us.
Yeah,
Make good use of your time.
yeah, man. You've definitely got the knowledge.
Yeah.
Think about it.
It's
Give
not
it
the
back.
knowledge, it's the ambition.
Right,
It'll look good on your resume.
yeah.
Yeah, right. I'm retired, I mean retired, sorry.
All right.
So if you do have any questions and you guys think of
Yeah,
anything, feel free.
I think the
to-
burning question is, I know the disclosure issue is there, but it'd be nice to see a plan, just what
It's
can we
been-
start banking on? Because we have, I guess you're right, funding isn't the issue, logistics are the issue. So it's not like, it's just we have this money and it's just, there's no idea about when and how.
Yeah, it's actually been probably, it's always the most burning question is, well, when is it coming to us? And we say, well, in a perfect world, I'd say probably, 2 years here, but, that's really just hearsay at this moment. But yeah, there is, that was a kind of a point of interest with that. People would like to have a clearer picture of when stuff would be coming to them. So you might see that here in the next couple of months. They might put something together. I know that we've really more just been in negotiation, so we can't really tip our hand yet because we were part of the art off auction and all of that. So
Okay. All right. Any other questions? We good to move on? Thank you, Noah.
Yeah, thank you, Noah. Appreciate it.
Glad you got a little workout tonight.
like I said, if anyone has thinks anything else,
Yeah,
just shoot me an email. I'll make sure it gets over to Krista.
Yeah. I had your wrong email for months. I had .com and it kept bouncing
Oh,
back.
God, because that's why you said you weren't like,
Right,
it was bouncing
yeah,
back. All right,
so-
I got you.
So,
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, guys. I'm gonna actually take off here.
Have a good night.
So moving on to Glover Trails Rec Committee discussion and Glover Day Committee updates. What's happening?
Well, I can give you a Glover Day update. Committee's met a couple of times, and it is definitely happening. Some real great ideas have come down the pike. Some new and innovative kinds of things. I may have spoken about this at our last meeting, but at any rate, we're steadily working on things. We're, of course, after a 2-year hiatus, we're playing catch up, and so it's that's one of the main struggles, is getting back on track. We have lost our t-shirt vendor, for instance, and we have tracked down a couple of new options now. Ray Sweeney gave us a really good option of a fellow, BT Wraps is the company that he uses for not only his t-shirts, but other signs and things in the store. And we've also contacted Magog Press. And I don't know where they get their screen printing done, but that's one of the big things, because we make most of our income from Glover Day comes from race registrations, which includes the distribution of t-shirt, and then we sell t-shirts as well to just non-racers. So anyway, that's a big part of the discussion. We're trying to expand our horizons, make it more interesting, also expand our advertising horizons, and we're going to have more of a Facebook presence, a social media presence. We considered generating a new website, but for a once-a-year event, that probably would not be that beneficial. But we are going to do more advertising widespread around the region, mainly to attract these crazy runners that just love to challenge themselves with the various things like this, and it sort of fits into our municipal plan, in that it's Glover Day is one of those events, and especially the Run Chamberlain Run, that makes Glover a destination. It's something that draws people in from all over the region, not just the state, even all over the region to participate, and of course, therefore, it brings in a goodly amount of revenue to the town, and we hope to reinvigorate that enthusiasm. We're trying to bring in a more wide, varied group of people to participate in a variety of ways. More food vendors, for instance, and maybe expand the time frame of it to later in the afternoon. But Glover Church is going to reinstate their auction during Glover Day. It's I think going to be a significant event again, and I've got a good crew of committee volunteers that are ready to do whatever they're asked to do. So sponsorships, that was another thing that was in jeopardy because of the pandemic. Businesses were diminished income. This year, we think we can go back to our sponsorships and get monies to And we've got money in the bank. We've got a couple of $1,000 left over from income from 2019. So we've got startup money, as it were, to get things going. And I think it's going to be a very enriching.
Any action items the board needs to look
I
at?
don't think so. We talked about it last time. You agreed that we would become a sort of an official committee of the town to run this program, and I think that's sufficient. So I don't see any other needs that we have.
Back to Magog Press, I'm pretty sure they do their own screen.
Do they do it? Yeah,
They've done work for me in the past,
okay.
and I mean, it was 50 or 75 t-shirts.
Yeah.
But they made stickers and they did shorts for us, and they do it all in house.
We've used them for other things. I've used them for other things, and they're very reliable. So it'll be interesting to see what they come back. We've got two vendors out there that we requested estimates from.
Good.
So yeah. Good.
All right, it's good stuff. And Glover Trails, Noel, you here for that?
Yes,
Oh, good. I forgot. Peggy's where Leanne is, but go ahead.
I'm first of all trying to figure out how I get a nice tan on my legs, like Dave has, and Leanne has. And no, I'm not going to Florida. I lived there for 3 years. It's not my type of state. Enough said.
Well, you don't like hurricanes.
Something else going on.
It must be in the water.
Right. Anyway.
So anyway, this is kind of complicated, but not really. We have a meeting scheduled here in this building on May 19th for public input and possible changes. Everything we've done so far is draft. So, I don't want anybody to panic that this is done deal, because it isn't. The bylaws reflect the input that we have received on the surveys that Peggy put together at town meeting.
I'm sorry, Noel, what bylaws are you referring to?
Bylaws for Glover Trails.
Okay, help us out with that. Where is that? Who are the bylaws? Where do they come from?
Well, basically, that's what you told us. You told me in writing that we needed to have as a committee, and
No.
it needed to be voted on.
You need a president, a treasurer, you need to make, when you have the meeting, minutes have to be posted, have to be, yeah.
And we have to do that. We
Yeah.
haven't done that, but that's what will take place on the 19th.
Okay, yeah, if I use bylaws, I'm sorry. There was sort of a charged mission that we talked about that can be fluid at this point, but the main thing is to have, a committee where, like Dave said, where you have a chair and a secretary so that we're in good communication.
Yeah, we will. And the angle that we've been working on is we have a member of Glover Trails, unofficial, that has wonderful skills with computers, which I have zero. And the idea that we have is that she would take the bylaws, would take a grant, would take minutes, would take pictures, would take events, whatever, and ship them to the town's website. Our goal is not to dump additional responsibility on Cindy and Jessica. She has the skill. I know you folks will want some sort of control in there, but all you really need, according to my research, would be the agenda and the minutes afterwards, 5 days after the meeting. One of the things that I've noticed is that, there's wonderful things going on here. Well, no question about it, but there's a communication problem And I think we can help solve that. For example, this lady can put the grant on our website, which people on the town website, if they wanted, could have access to. The same thing with the bylaws, the same thing with the events, the same thing with the long-range plan. Year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5. And if you look at other communities that have been successful with something similar, such as Jericho, East Montpelier, Central Vermont Trail System, Lamoille Valley Trail System, it takes a long time to get it in place so it's really working well. And I think I'm not sure I'm gonna live long enough, but I think in time, this is gonna be a real positive aspect of people living here and people coming here. What the bylaws are clue, and it's just, and Dave, I'm not belittling what you're saying, but it's just not chair, vice chair, secretary, treasurer. It's more, it's that, but it's also long-range plan. It's also how are we going to function within Glover Trails? The key to all of this are basically land owners. They are going to determine if a trail crosses their properties. And they're also going to have say as to what we think now, at this point, that it's non-motorized. Okay? And if somebody doesn't want, let's say, I can't think of a good example, but let's say runners on part of their property
Or dogs.
or dogs, because it, ooh, so be careful. Because it's invades their privacy. I can relate to that. You know, I own land. And I want people up there to see this 360 view, but it's gotta be where I'm happy with. So the key, what I'm trying to say is the landowner is going to have ultimate authority. 1, if it's a trail. 2, where it's located. 3, what that piece of the trail is called. 4, are there special rules that they want to enforce? No dogs, whatever.
Horses.
Dogs on a leash.
Horses, I think
Probably.
that would be a big one on that.
And if you go back and look at what East Montpelier, Jericho, and all the rest of them that I mentioned have done, they have really enforced it. East Montpelier shut down the trail because one of the rules basically was no more than 5 or 6 cars in this parking area. And people weren't following. So that part of the trail was shut down until people understood, hey, we mean business. It's a great opportunity, and I can't say enough about Leanne's mother, Peggy, and the work that she's done on this. And I don't know how many years, Leanne, how many hours or years do you think your mother's put into the Hinman Skunk Hollow project?
I mean, she first got interested in the trails when we started Pioneer Camp like 25 years ago. So it's hard to estimate.
Okay, good answer. But this is Peggy's project, really. I'm just very enthusiastic. I think the whole town will be enthusiastic. I want to see us connect to the Lamoille Valley Trail in Greensboro. That will be finished, Greensboro Bend, that'll be finished in this fall. Eventually, I'd like to see us connected to Greensboro, to Craftsbury, and Peggy's made all of those connections already. It's not like it's fertile, untapped area. It's a great opportunity. So, and you will get, if we can get Jethro back here, because Michelle Damiani is the one that's going to be doing the Glover Trails website connected to the town. And I think, Cindy, you've met, they're just great people. But Jethro needs to make the connections. So if you go to the Town of Glover website, you have a link to Glover Trails website. And there's also possibility, and I'm not committing anybody to anything, to do the same sort of thing with Glover Day or whatever is planned.
Okay.
The other big thing that we've got going right now is June 4th, which is a Saturday, is National Trails Day. And what we intend to do on that particular day, when the website is going, is list various activities that people can participate in. But again, they're gonna have to tell us that they want to participate. I've gotten to know Jim Currier on a different level than what I knew him before, and he was a walking treasure. And on that particular day, he's gonna do a hike in Black Hills.
That's gonna say
Skunk
Black Hills
Hollow.
by chance.
And
It's a
so
Black
is
Hills.
Leanne's mother going to do something on that particular day, just to get people out, so they all appreciate the beauty of this place. But there's also a community spirit here that's scary. I don't know if you all remember, I thought I brought it, but another Gibson named did these brochures, back road bike rides. And on June 4th, I'm gonna try to drag some of these old timers out and to do one of these tours. Because this is what a trails committee does, provide various events.
have a trailing ambulance.
Ambulance is on duty. It's just such an opportunity.
Yep.
And I hope I'm coming across as a believer and enthusiastic, because I am. But it goes right back to Leanne's mother and the work that she's done here for 25 years. Is that what I heard? We're just building on that. The grant that she applied for didn't come through. But again, if you go in and look at the history of those grants, generally somebody had to start someplace. And then once it's in place, the state, which is very generous, and the federal government, which now is very generous, just keeps building on that. And we also, and Brian doesn't know this yet, but we, sometime along the lines, part of that long range plan, we need to do a section for anybody that's disabled. And Brian and Ed Nasta, my other neighbor, they're experts on that. And they volunteered to be responsible for coming up that particular plan. Thank you, Brian. Anyway, it's a great opportunity.
Okay, comments from the
I've got
board?
a couple of little comments.
How
One,
about-
Peggy has sent us the permission slips that we're distributing to landowners along the Hinman Road, to people we are aware of in Glover. And then secondly, I came up with this wild destination creating idea. As we go past on the Hinman Road, past our land, headed north, there's the opportunity either to go on the old Hinman Road, down below Vicky Young's house, across the field and down toward Barton, or you could divert the path up to the top of Lone Tree Hill, wherein at one point the idea was floated of putting the Statue of Liberty. If we had two of our local metal worker sculptors create a 30 or 40 foot high sculpture that replicated the Statue of Liberty and put it on a foundation at the top of Lone Tree Hill.
It gets blasted right off.
No, and put a plaque up there. I mean, you know,
You haven't been around.
All right. So,
Yeah.
look, when you have your meeting here
Yes.
in May.
You're gonna be here that night.
No, I'm not, it's my son's
Where you
birthday.
going?
It's my son's birthday.
Okay, we'll begin. You'll be here.
What night is that?
It's a Friday.
No,
the 19th, May 19th.
Is it a Thursday or Friday?
I think it's a Thursday.
Could be, it's not a board meeting, it's not the second Thursday.
No, it's Thursday, and I checked with Cindy, she put it on.
But at any rate, so we'll be,
Needs to go on the calendar,
yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
I don't
That
know.
blessed calendar.
Maybe it was Jessica, I don't know.
Right.
Do we want to put June 4th, National Trail Day on the calendar? as well?
Absolutely, please.
Okay, and you're the contact.
I won't be after this meeting.
Thanks, guys. That sounds good, man. That's, things are moving in the right direction.
Okay. Thank you, Noel. Road update. The road permit policy could be an action item.
Yeah.
So Dave has drafted up an ordinance, actually, it says policy / ordinance.
Okay, this is where a policy has to be warned, an ordinance does not. We can make a decision on an ordinance.
I thought it was the other way around. You can do an ordinance without having to be warned.
If we make do a policy, it has to be warned. So I mean, and an ordinance is also enforceable. We can make a decision on an ordinance and it's enforceable in the same way as a policy is. It's just without being warned. We don't, there's, one of the biggest problem we've got is, and we've talked about this for a number of times, is that people are cutting across the roads and they're not repairing them right, and it's costing the town a bunch of money. Parker Road's a good place, and the pavement, and another thing, I mean, I've done surveys from Colchester, Brighton, Bolton, Shelburne, South Burlington, Derby. None of them like you cut pavement. Pavement is $250,000 a mile. You know, if you want to run your power underneath it, you're bored. That's just, and Craftsberry is another one. That's the only way they fly. So, and we get our guys are going out and they're spending $400 or $500 just to fix these holes. And because people aren't doing it right. You know, when you dig a ditch across the road, you separate your materials. You take your bank run, your fill on the bottom, you separate that. You separate your good gravel and stones on the top. And then when you replace it, you compact it, and when it's done right, you don't have these issues that we've been having. We have, as of now, we have 3 applications, or we're going to have 3 applications. And I've worked with Harvey and Mike and Scott on this. And Cindy's helped me pretty it up. And I think we should either adopt it or have some serious consideration. I don't know.
I am good to adopt. I'm a little confused about how we can call it an ordinance.
I thought an ordinance has to be publicized.
That's
so
policy.
That's what?
That's policy. It's not unlike when we did the speed policy.
Right, you had to
We
publicize
had
it,
to
it
warn it.
wasn't enforced until 60 days later. or something like that.
If there wasn't any
Right.
petition to that situation. You know, this isn't like it's a big deal, you know, it's not something, it's not, I don't think. The road. Or.
I guess an emergency like a sewer issue. And then that covered in. Got a problem, they gotta get into the road.
You. Another road for it. I mean, we're not gonna say no, you know, to somebody that's in trouble. If somebody. And they need, it's the town that stops.
Yeah, I'm not arguing.
So here are the ordinances and here are the policies. Does anyone, so we have traffic ordinances, then we have a credit card policy that shouldn't be under, that should probably be under policy. All right, So did we have, this was warned, right? So we warned it as a road update and didn't say action. That always concerns me. We can, so these three applications, when do they have to, when is the earliest they have to be addressed? Or,
Well, in this.
so it's May 1st.
Is May 1st till October 15th. That's the other thing, people are coming in November and want to cut a road, and there's already frost in the road, and then winter shows up. And people want to do it before May, when the frost is out, and that just creates a soup bowl.
Well, I'm okay to move on and move on it if anyone wants to make a motion in second.
Well, I would move that we adopt this road surface cut permit policy. Whatever you want to call it. Effective May 1st. I'd be happy to read it or read some of it to anybody that's interested in that.
Once we get a second. Leanne, you want to second this?
I'll second that.
Yeah, discussion, why don't you just read it so we.
Basically, for road cuts, it states a deposit of $500 is required when a road cut is issued. This deposit will be returned 30 days after work is completed, provided the road is restored to its original condition or better than prior to the road cut work beginning. No pavement will be cut, only boring under the road is permitted. Permits and work done will only be completed between May 1st and October 15th. When cutting into a ditch, material from the ditch should be separated, stone versus gravel, etc. The ditch must be 4 feet deep when, before the work is completed. A compactor must be used when the road is restored to its original condition. And then there's the usual, it's already in there, if a culvert is necessary, the town will provide a culvert.
So that's a little bit more than what I have here, but so that's going to be the official.
Yeah.
Okay, if I understand it right, boring if it's paved, but you can dig it up if it's gravel.
Yes.
Oh.
But there will be, for any work done, there will be a $500 deposit, but you'll get it back. South Burlington, for instance, charges $22.50 a square foot. They do the work.
Yeah.
Bolton is a $2,500 permit, which you get back if. Colchester holds you responsible for a year afterwards. I think a month is probably sufficient.
Yeah.
Okay, I would say, I would have the motion read a policy. Just because if I look at ordinances, they're more like the public has to, well, this, I guess. I'm thinking of like parking ordinance, this involves applications, so it's sort of like, here's our policy, here's our application, which is the procedure.
Right.
That's what I'm looking
We already have a permit. You have to apply for a permit. And you have to fill out
So are we revising the policy? That's
it's
already,
basically an amendment to what we've got.
is there a policy on the books that has this?
We have a policy for a road cut.
Okay, so it's revising the policy.
Yeah, right. Isn't there one in there for the road cut?
I don't
Or is it
know.
there's one for culverts, driveway cuts, new construction. Basically, we took the road surface cut permit and added road cut into it because it was.
The global road policy, see down there?
111.
It's private driveway.
No, up above that. It's all capital.
Private roads and driveway.
It's
Is
not-
that it? No, that's another policy.
Shoot. I just want to make sure we either say this is a policy or a revised.
Could it have been in that, private roads and driveways ordinance?
Above,
Oh, right here,
Is
okay.
that it? Could it be there? I don't know.
That just, I believe, covers culverts for
Okay.
coming out of the road. and
But
ditching.
not, so it sounds then, Dave, that this is a new policy.
or
And-
an ordinance, because this one says it's an ordinance.
Okay. For the sake of regularity, I guess we will call it an ordinance. Okay, so we have the motion to approve the draft of the ordinance as presented by Dave. And we have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the ordinance signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I'm sorry, aye. Okay, motion passes. Okay, so now it'll be, and so as far as the permit, that'll just be a little bit of wordsmithing and then just give it, here you go. Okay,
Yeah, we'll just have to pretty this up.
Get rid of all of the things that are getting removed. and start from being-
Well, you know, probably, I'm sure there's gonna be a couple people squawking, but I think if I wanted to cut across my road and I gave $500, I'd be much more inclined to making sure I get it right to get my money back than to half-ass do it, which is been awesome.
I'm not arguing the point.
And
You
then,
know, you gotta have a little bit of, carrot and stick approach.
yeah, you know, and it's so hard to maintain payment in this town, you know? It's so, not so hard, it's just, it's a lot of money, and it doesn't come easy, so I think we need to protect that a little bit.
okay, our next item is reviewing the quarterly financial report that we've had for 3 weeks. I did review it last week. I didn't see anything significantly problematic. We spent 95% of the budget for gravel, which I don't know if that's
One
good or
thing
bad.
we're gonna run into some issues is we're really close on our budget for fuel. Fuel's gone through the roof,
Right,
so that's not really anything,
Yeah.
that's not anything that's in our control.
52% over budget right now.
Yeah.
Um,
You know, and as far as what we have budgeted for gravel, we can't get away without crushing again maybe this year, because we did crush last. But we're gonna need stone, because we are gonna have to deal with that.
Any other comments about the questions about the report? Okay. I guess we won't move to accept the report, just move on.
Yep, it's just for review.
All right, Randy, you want to do a abbreviated planning commission?
Yep.
Update in terms of, yeah, what's next
Okay,
steps?
so, as some of you are aware, on the 19th, we had, our last real meeting with, the Boys and King to, review the final draft of the plan for the town green and Main Street, in the municipal planning grant. Some corrections were suggested. As per, we had a good attendance here in person. Several people here on Main Street came and made their comments about not wanting sidewalks in front of their house on the east side of Route 16 between Dexter Mountain and the Busy Bee, and other little things like that had been proposed as a possible solution to traffic, pedestrian traffic. Those things have been added into the plan. They have submitted the final draft, which came out yesterday, and those things have been added and corrected, and it looks real good. We encouraged them to fulfill their obligation to present a marketing study that had been done, that we have never really seen a final report on, and so that was submitted as well. And it went to everybody here, and we will put that online as well. But I think one of the main issues that came out with the marketing study was that there is room for growth in a variety of areas here in Glover that still keeps our community spirit pretty much online with being close knit, and that one of the things that stood out for me was there's room for a couple of more restaurant type or food businesses in this is just in the downtown area. So because the marketing study showed that there was, that because we draw in from other places, that there's a potential for supporting that kind of effort. It also talked about trying to give Glover an identity that made it a destination, as opposed to just a happenstance pass through, happen to come here for one reason or another, but to make it a place that people can come to for getting on the trail system, or having a bike repair system down at the town green, or music events in a pavilion down on the town green. Any number of things that, including restaurants, that could, or food, providing food of one, it could be food trucks on a particular day or whatever. It was, I think it was pretty enlightening to see this marketing study. They pulled off of a lot of national trends as well as local data. So I would encourage you to look at that. But now we have all of the final information from Du Bois and King. We have submitted that to NDDA to get their perspective on it and get their sense of how we can fund some of these things. What we've got to work on now is trying to work out some kind of priority list with the ideas that have been submitted, and then work out a funding resource for each of these projects. So it's been a long process. I'm certainly happy with the outcome. I'm certainly glad that it's reached its conclusion. And I certainly compliment my planning commission and other community members that have participated. It's been enlightening in many respects. So
on behalf of the board, I want to applaud you and the committee for the work you've been doing. It's been pretty exciting watching the discussions go back and forth, and the way that you've included the community. And I think it's a wonderful blueprint for making some pretty critical decisions in the future. But I think it's going to be very helpful.
well, thank you. Yeah, it's one of the nice, and it shows up in the surveys. It's one of the nice things about living in this community. We're so close knit. If you ask somebody to do something, they'll step up and do it. and it's rewarding to not have just 5 people doing the same stuff on all fronts. That's really good.
It'd be
So-
interesting to hear from MBDA as far as financing goes.
That's right, that's
I mean,
right.
it's, you know, I mean, the money we got, you know, covered this part of it. And now it's like, how do we make this happen? How do we
That's
pay
right.
for this to happen?
And D&K gave us a group of, in the report, they gave us, maybe 10 different funding sources potentially for various aspects of the plan. But the next step is deciding what our priorities are in terms of the plan. And, you know, some things are easily done, some things don't cost a lot of money, some things are important, some things are less important. So, you know, anyway, so that's the status of it. And the other piece that I sent you guys an email about today that still needs to be resolved before we can do anything on the green is we need to establish that ownership issue and get some feedback.
Did you get my response?
I did. So
And that was regarding the sale of which property?
You shot that.
yeah, chalk it
Old firehouse.
to
So-
Sweeney.
So, and
And neither one of them said that there would be any issue with the boundaries. So there's not gonna be any argument or any, oh God, I don't think this is what it is. But I did, you know, I approached Jason quite a while ago, and he said, you know, it's fine, because he goes, I'm selling the property anyway.
Right. So
And
no matter
what about
Sarah is gonna, how long is it gonna take Sarah to put together that quick clean deed and make it official?
So whose ball is it now in Sarah's court? Because we told her that it's okay.
As far as I know it is, but I would follow up on that to make sure.
And then
That-
I guess I would talk to,
I'd be happy to do that.
I would talk to Ray when he gets back, he's on vacation, I would
Yeah.
talk to him, but
Right.
Sweeney.
Sweeney, he's buying the chalkette. He's buying.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm behind the eight ball. I don't know any of this stuff, so.
Yeah.
So Shawkette is selling it to Sweeney?
Yes,
Shawkette bought it from the fire department?
Yeah,
No.
I know he bought it from,
private,
huh?
it's a private sale.
Yeah,
And as far as the other neighbors, no interference from.
I don't believe so. I think the fire department are good with their line, as is, nursing home and,
Okay,
So
Sylvia, yeah. So that's the only, and that has to happen before Trish can submit her final report on the survey. That's just a one pin right there on the, it will be the southeast corner of the old firehouse of the Chalkette parcel.
so no one has talked to Ray Sweeney yet.
I've talked to Ray,
You have, and his response was no problem.
he didn't see a problem, but this was a month ago, and I would think we should talk to him again when he gets home.
Yeah.
And say, are you still in favor, because we're gonna move away, and we don't wanna when we start moving on this, we don't want you to come back at that point. I don't think he's purged it, yes, but that's the intent. That's-
So does it make sense to wait until we talk to Ray before we talk to Sarah?
I think so.
Okay.
I'd like to. I know we're anxious to do this, I don't think there's gonna be an issue, but I just think we don't wanna put the cart in the horse.
So I don't know, in terms of the final process for the municipal planning grant, if there needs to be official approval from the board for the submitted plans. I really don't know the answer to that, but
Well, chances are, if that has to happen, NVDA would know.
I would think, and it'll be in the information in the guidelines for the grant. So I'll look into that and let you know.
So who is the town, so within, in NVDA, is your contact Annie, how's her name? Annie
McLean.
McLean, or is it David Snedeker? Who did you send it to?
Oh, we sent it to Dave Snedeker and Allison Lowe.
Okay,
She's been our other good contact, helped us out a lot.
okay,
Good.
thank you, Randy.
Yeah.
Next item is ARPA update, include review of standard allowance option. I'm gonna make a quick motion that the select board approve the standard allowance option for use of ARPA funds as recommended by just about everyone on earth.
I'll second it.
All those, any discussion?
No.
All those in favor of the standard allowance signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. So the next ARPA issue is Leanne and I had a meeting with Kate Buckley from VLCT. So if you remember, our preliminary plan was to look at using a smidgen of ARPA funds to create an administrator to manage ARPA funds and other grants. And the idea was that would be someone within the board to be doing that for 10 hours a week. And that seemed to be a good idea rather than adding another employee. When I emailed Kate Buckley with that information, she quickly informed me that that would be a problem because ARPA cannot be used for a position that is also in a boss position. So being on the board and also being an employee, that would be a conflict. So we looked at some options. The first option Katie presented was we could use general funds monies to fund the ARPA manager, which could be a board member, and then there would be backfilling that fund with ARPA money. So it's
So Robert Peter to pay Paul.
yeah, it's a little bit complicated. And that, you
It's
know,
legal.
Leanne and I didn't really jump at that as a great idea. The second option would be to have the said board member who was originally indicated as the ARPA administrator to step down and to hire that person 10 to 15 hours a week as ARPA plus administrator, where, and we discussed it a little further about, well, this would be an actual part-time administrator who could help with the said communication issues that Noel often brings up, as well as could also be the recycling coordinator. And so that kind of piqued Leanne's interest as well as mine, is something that, you know, yeah, it's a little bit dramatic to think about stepping down from the board, but you know, you got to look at this thing holistically. The third option would be to find someone from a third party, either NVDA or VLCT, who would contract for a person to help administrate the town's business. I talked to Katie because at one time, Vermont Leagues of Cities and Towns was going to have that type of a program where a collection of towns could chip in and have a consultant come and actually administer the town's business. So let's say Greensboro and Glover shared an administrator. That would be a very cost-effective way of doing it. I actually had a conversation with the board chair in Greensboro, and he was very interested in talking about that over coffee. It's got some problems because, well, if you have an employee, it's got problems because the question is who's doing the supervision, who does the evaluation, But if it's a third party contract, that would be cleaner. It would just be paid VLCT for this person. I did speak with Ted Brady, the executive director, and he said, that's been a great idea. We've been working on it for years, but we don't have anyone right now. And he was curious about our conversation with Greensboro. So that's what we have for landscape around dealing with our various issues of administrative and managing of our business.
So what you're saying is you want someone part-time. You don't really want a full-time town manager
Well, think about town meeting day.
or town.
To me, it's something you graduate into. That it's a little bit of a shock to say we're going to hire an administrator full-time. If you look at the figures, and we're not even sure. In my, well, part of it is if I were to be doing that, I'd be selfish and say I couldn't do more than 15 hours a week. But if the need was very clear and we had evidence that we could do better by having someone 20, 25 hours a week, maybe 37 hours a week, we still have to build that case. And that's my point is, rather than just say, we need an administrator, let's put down some information about what that person would do. I would speak personally that probably having someone who knows grants and can help distinguish ARPA from other grants and can do a little bit of research, a little public outreach, that we could probably be making better decisions and be able to take advantage of more grants.
So what you're talking about is not so much a town administrator, but a grant facilitator?
No, it's a town administrator, someone that reports to the board and does some of the legwork that we all are woefully failing as 3 volunteers. Someone who can be the center. Cindy does a great job, but she's a smidgen of time. She's assistant to the town clerk. So she has a bunch of stuff to do there. We need Cindy times 10.
I don't think the town would buy a full-time administrator. Personally, I don't think we need a full-time administrator. But I do think there's a definite need for 15 hours a week. We're overwhelmed with stuff to do, it's, in the 4 years I've been here, it's quadruple what you need to do. And my whole idea originally with this was, hey, well, perfect, we'll use the ARPA money to hire, to take such a position and use it for a year as a trial run, and then say, hey, at the end of the year, yeah, we need a town administrator, and we need him 25 hours a week. And then we could try to sell it at town meeting.
Yeah.
It was kind of a good way without having to take any tax money from the budget. It would have been a kind of a test run, but now it doesn't look like that's. And that's not going to work. And
Well, it will work if we have a non.
Yeah. Be honest with you, Ron, I don't know, replacing you is not going to be very easy. You do a hell of a lot of work, so that's not my first, would be my first vote, just so you know.
But it's a quid pro, it's a 6 of one, half dozen of the other. I mean, the reason why, you're right. I probably, I'm doing more than I ever thought I would being a select board member. Jack Sumber did more. And I'm concerned that if the profile of a select board member is to do all this detail work, grunt work, constantly having to communicate, then we're not going to have it. We're either going to have to increase the pay for select board, which I don't think we should, or, we're not going to have people that are willing to serve in a leadership capacity if they're deep in the weeds. So I think having 10 to 15 hours a week will take much of the pressure off in terms of the logistics of keeping track of the solar project, the dam stuff. And I had a report, I forgot to say, I had a report about the dam. I talked to Ben Green today. They've got our, yeah, so there's an example of, we keep losing sight of things that are long range that we gotta pull back in. So I don't know, I just know that the course we're going on, I'm not gonna be able to just, I want to avoid burnout in terms of trying to do board work and then also dealing with a lack of administrative support. And at some point, it's just gonna be, that's it, I'm just gonna, whatever happens, happens. And I don't think that's a good thing to happen.
Question. Is there any towns around that have an underutilized granite facilitator of that nature that we could get?
I don't know.
I think the answer is, if there is, it's gonna be, I'd be shocked. I don't know of many towns that have someone on payroll that isn't overly utilized. If you talk to most town employees, they're feeling pretty overstretched.
Okay.
I know, like, I mean, I don't know that many towns but I have never really looked, but, I mean, Hardwick has a full-time town manager. That they have forever. I mean, what about increasing,
Well, the other option, the fourth option I didn't say was, if we could recruit some, what's that?
what if we increase the members of the select board?
That's an interesting idea. I looked at Greensboro, they have 5. And we have a higher population than Greensboro. That's an interesting thought.
I didn't catch that.
I said, what if we increase the number of members on the select board to 5?
That's a possibility.
Because we started out doing our division of labor thing, and that kind of worked in the beginning, but it just said, well, we still have too much to do. So dividing the labor among 5 members.
Well, then you can have 2 people committees. And they'll have a quorum. In other words, you can send 2 select board members to deal with an issue and it's not a quorum. So it adds a lot there, because that's the worst part about having a 3-member board. If 2 of you are together, it constitutes.
That's a good point. It limits our ability to actually interface beyond meetings, because we don't want to have a quorum.
Well, that would be something I would be possibly be more of a, I'd be more interested in seeing you jump.
The way it was presented by Katie was I could step down and someone could be interim for the rest of my term ends at the end of this term.
What is the protocol for adding select board members? Is that something that can be done outside of town meeting? Like, obviously, we need to get the town's input on that.
Oh, yeah, it'd have to be put in the article in the town meeting.
Yeah, it'd have to be warned.
Yeah, I think it'd have to be
know.
warned.
No
Yeah,
idea.
it'd have to be a town meeting.
There might be a special meeting, but I could check into that. VLCT has their info page. I could, unless someone else wants to check in on that. You'll be at the
Also-
airport tomorrow, right? You probably have time on your hands waiting for your flight. You want to email VLCT?
The other part about adding select board members is that do we need to have it budgeted for? Because for each select board member, that's another $2,500.
Fortunately, it's low amount of money that could probably be
We could
absorbed.
probably have a bottle drive and have it go, we get paid.
What was it, 21?
Yeah.
Brian, I didn't understand the reaction about sharing somebody with Greensboro or Craftsbury, a kindred type of.
So I emailed the board chair, who I happened to meet when I was covering.
Greensboro, right, got that.
Yeah, and I said, by any chance, would you be interested in a discussion about sharing a town administrator? Because just from my going to their meeting, they seem to have the same problem we do. And he said right away, yes, definitely. So we haven't set up a time to talk, but so, and I'm not geographically, I'm not sure it's easy to be, where someone lived, or I don't know. Greensboro's not that far away, but
is town administrator, I think what you're really asking for is a select board assistant. Town administrator means kind of like administration of the town,
Yeah,
while you're actually really want someone
So-
to help the select board do all the stuff.
but it needs to be a self-starter who understands civic policy, understands grant funding, understands the relationship of other agencies that the towns have to partner with. So it is someone that's just not, I mean, it's an administrator, it's not a manager. They're not managing
It's a
anything.
lot of the day-to-day stuff
Okay.
is what you need. It's not, it's not somebody to make decisions necessarily, but it's somebody to do the day-to-day stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, I spent, 4 hours the other day because I had somebody complaining about how someone graded the road, and they've been in the road for years. And, all this stuff takes time. You gotta go meet with the road crew, you gotta see what they've done, you gotta make sure things work for everybody. And
I'm not arguing.
Well, I'm saying is
This
this-
is just a,
there's
to be
so
a
much
town
going on.
administrator is the one that's in charge of everything. And and is only reportable to the select.
Right, right.
Oh,
Brian, is it okay to ask Cindy what her thoughts are at this point?
Yeah, we've discussed it, go ahead,
What my thoughts are on what?
Well, how to change the, I guess, structure of the town administrative unit, which is now 3 selectmen, you and Jessica and the road foreman, whatever, but I mean, you've watched this for years. What thoughts do you have to make it more efficient, more effective, and so that we don't lose old gray hair and younger gray hair, whatever?
I think Brian's suggestion of, I think increasing the number of board members is very intriguing. To spread out more of the workload. I think that's very intriguing. And I'm glad Brian's going to research and see if that's what needs to be done for that and if it's going to be feasible. Working with somebody from Greensboro, I think is another excellent idea. And yeah, those are the options. I'm not in favor of Brian resigning either. A lot of possibilities out there. Yes, they do need some help. They need some relief so that they don't get burned out.
The grant process is insane. I mean, you have to have a PhD in about 4 different areas to apply for a grant. And there's going to be more and more grants coming along. And thank God that these guys in the plan, that the town included something about a trail system. Can't remember exactly. That opens doors for the big picture.
Okay, well, so how should we proceed on this?
I'm not ready to make a decision tonight.
Okay. Leanne, any thoughts? Just want to table it for now?
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. Probably increasing the select board is probably the most viable option. I'm in favor of that.
I mean, let's just see what you find out from,
Yeah.
If that's, if it's something we can do, and, I mean, if we could get, on the other end, if we could get Craftsbury, Greensboro, and us together, and could hire, if there's someone there we could hire to do that, that's an option.
That sounds great. My only headache thought would be, let's say we hire someone, and first, when you hire someone, there has to be a decision of who is going to be their actual employer.
Right.
Or is there or do we hire someone that contract with Greensboro or vice versa? Because someone has to own that position in terms of benefits and, FICA and the administration of that. So, which can be worked out, but in talking to Kate Buckley, she said it can get complicated if you don't have a good relationship built in, so.
Nice thing about having one person spread over 3 towns is generally a grant for one town is gonna be available for.
Well, that's, and, you know, they're like, my dream would be for NVDA to have a regional administrator that towns can use on a rotating basis. And we just chip in a little bit, maybe a moderate amount, and then that person would also have, you know, insights into what are other towns doing, so that we're not all in our little cubicles. So, okay, so I will look at what it would take to add 2 additional board members. We do have an executive session scheduled to discuss personnel matter. Do I have a motion to enter executive session?
Session, unless any of you guys have anything else that you.
Have you laid out a procedure to follow for the AIPA funds? I mean,
No, that's what we're struggling with, someone's gotta own that. And we have, right now, that's the number 1 priority for this position, is to start doing the outreach and the procedure.
oh,
Okay. All right.
Thank you for picking up the chairs.
I'm gonna pause the recording.
Yeah, the next question is, do you want me?
Okay, we are now out of executive session, and I'll take a motion to increase the wage of Michael Prey. Do I hear a motion?
I move we increase Mike's rate of pay as of May 1st as law foreman to by $1.50 an hour.
Okay, we have $1.50 an hour, and we have a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor of increasing Michael Prey's wage by $1.50 signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, motion passes. All right. After signing of orders, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Leah, you can just stay right there, okay? We'll just sign those for you.
So am I gonna have to like come into the town clerks and sign them at some point, or can we get them next meeting for me to sign?
You actually, since they've been approved, the 2 of them are foreign, they can sign and you're free.
Okay, so should I hang out until you guys have,
Go have a drink.
Yeah, just think of us, okay? We're slaving away now up here.
all right, so are we officially dismissed?
Yeah, we're officially dismissed.
Yeah.
Okay, bye guys, see you next time.
We won't talk about you too much. Okay. Hey, Monday, could you do the signing?
Monday or Tuesday?
Whatever day, whatever. I do it Monday, but
Okay.
if you do it Tuesday.
Yeah, that's fine.
Would you rather Tuesday?
Sometimes, yes, because depending upon how many invoices and how.
Oh, shit, I signed my booking lien.
Busy I get on Monday, yeah, it can be